Hi, it's time for a little more hope and possibility. Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Jantz. We're talking about that sad seasonal affective disorder and what to do about it.
Dr. Gregory Jantz is a best-selling author of over 45 books and the founder of the Center A Place of Hope, voted a top 10 center for depression treatment in the U.S. As the pioneer of whole person care, Dr. Jantz is known as the messenger of hope. Now the nation's expert on anxiety, depression, substance abuse, relationships, trauma, and PTSD, here is Dr. Gregory Jantz.
Okay, you've heard the term sad seasonal affective disorder. It's a form of depression, and it hits about right now. Well, it hits in the fall. Weather changes. Most places change their clocks, and it's darker sooner in the day, and it's darker when you wake up in the morning. And there is one word for many that describes what you begin to feel. It's a word called dread. I dread the feeling of winter and fall because of what I begin to experience in my body. Sometimes it's referred to as the winter blues. I want to just begin by saying, I've treated this for a long time, and I see successful treatment. And it's more than the winter blues. It can, over time, and as we age, it can get worse. Seasonal affective disorder, you might as well just cross that off and say depression. It's depression, and it comes with some anxiety mixed in. You may feel it. It's like, with that dread, it's like, I'm going to gain weight again. It's going to be another tough winter. I'm already having a hard time getting up in the morning. It's dark when I get home at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. I feel tired. I feel at times a tad bit lethargic. I feel like I'm weighted down. And maybe you feel sad. I wrote down some other symptoms where you may feel sad throughout the day, just that sluggishness, that low energy, and just really wanting to sleep a lot. Like, I just want to go to bed. And this is depression we're talking about. You may have noticed that difficulty concentrating, maybe even making decisions. I'm pointing to my forehead because that's the prefrontal cortex. That's where you make good decisions, wise decisions. It's called executive function. That's where it resides. And seasonal affective disorder can really make it hard to make at times some basic decisions. You may find you feel inadequate. You may find you feel like, I look in the mirror and I go, I don't like what I see. You feel lowered self-esteem. Your appraisal of yourself tends to be a tad bit harsh when you have seasonal affective disorder. It can be pretty severe for some, where it's just hopelessness, unworthiness. And I have worked with individuals and it's been like, I just want to die. It's that feeling of, I can't do this anymore. It's just that depths of despair. So the thoughts of not wanting to live. So these are just a few of the symptoms I wanted to share, more prominent symptoms. You may notice that just the difficulty of getting up and get going for the day, weight gain, and there's one I haven't mentioned yet that I need to, but it's the craving of carbohydrates. It's the intensity of wanting more and more sugar. That's right. Sugar. And what happens? Well, we have Halloween. There's some sugar. And then we have Thanksgiving. Overeating. Probably some indulgence. Some mix a fair amount of alcohol into that. That's sugar. And you really begin to go, And then there's the kind of the treats that sprinkle through all of December and Christmas time. And every year we say, I'm going to lose weight. And yet we repeat the pattern year after year. All right, here's what's going on. We do have a biological clock. It's called circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms is that cycle that our body's been in. If we change clocks, some people are very sensitive on this, on their circadian rhythm. you feel like it's thrown you off, and then it's darker sooner, and that adds to it. And it just is a disruption of the body's internal clock. With this can be an offset of the melatonin levels. What's melatonin? It's a hormone. You can actually purchase and buy a melatonin subject, but it is melatonin is a hormone that helps regulate sleep and helps regulate staying asleep. I used to work in sleep research. I spent a couple years in sleep research, and I can tell you the importance of melatonin. And melatonin is light sensitive. In other words, we produce melatonin with the natural lights. I'm looking out my window, the melatonin, and it's the daylight, the sunlight, the full spectrum lighting. It's not the fluorescent lights that produce melatonin. So here's what we need to look at. Always look at having your blood drawn to look at deficiencies. Number one on the list, vitamin D. Vitamin D has a lot to do with mood, depression, energy levels. Have your vitamin D level looked at. I do this, and I can tell you, there was a number of years ago, I was so low, personally, so low in vitamin D. I mean, my doctor looked at me, goes, "We're going to give you an extra boost for the next 30 days. And I was doubled up on a fairly high, it comes in it's measured in international units. And I was taking quite a bit for 30 days just to get my levels back up. So I still supplement myself each day with vitamin D, and vitamin D is super important. Certain states that are a little bit light deficient, we might say, have higher levels of vitamin D deficiencies. North Dakota is one. You might think Alaska's one. And actually it's not. There may be for some, but it's offset by the high amount of fish and the omega-3s. Those are commonly referred to as the fish oil. They are super important and replace the vitamin D levels in the fish oils. Omega-3s really is a safeguard for many who live in Alaska. It's interesting to look at this. So supplementation when it's appropriate, work with your healthcare provider, can be really appropriate, can be also very proactive, and will help your body regain a sense of kind of that internal strength. You may also want to look at, when you have your blood work done, hormonal levels. And sometimes now, the things I'm suggesting, okay, you may have to ask, hey doc, will you run my vitamin D? Will you run my thyroid? I want to see what's happening thyroid. Thyroid's low. I'm going to be sluggish, anxious, and depressed. You might want to look at, again, the hormonal levels. This is usually a request that a panel is run. Testosterone, your estrogen levels. They're going to look at some other things there. But looking at that, low hormonal levels. If you have seasonal affective disorder, that is going to it's going to magnify it. Okay, so these are some of the things we want to look at. Well, one more I want you to look at. Full spectrum lighting. Something that we have here at the Center, a Place of Hope. The full spectrum lighting is, there's specialized light panels. And by the way, it's really, the accessibility to get these now is really good. You can order them online. The prices have gone way down, and there's different sizes. There's desktop versions. There's those that sit on the floor, and you don't stare at them. You just sit next to them. And what it does is that light, maybe you're going to be reading a book, but that light, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of exposure, mornings are fine. Sometimes people feel like it wakes them up at night, but just to get the light is good. Now, that helps the production of the melatonin, for one thing. Goes through the eyes. Eyes, of course, are connected to the brain, but we are looking at serotonin levels being improved. Oh, serotonin, that mood chemical that you have in the brain, 90+% of that serotonin, and there's one more called dopamine. These are two very important brain chemicals, are manufactured in our gut. Our gut's sometimes referred to as the second brain, and so that in healthy intestinal flora, bacteria manufactures serotonin and dopamine. That's just a couple of things it does. Travels via those microbiomes. It travels via the vagus nerve from the gut up to the brain. It's like a highway, and helps supply the brain what it needs. If you're not manufacturing serotonin and dopamine, sluggish, depressed, anxious. So, just really important. Those are some of the key things you can look at. And I'm going to strongly suggest those lights and getting all the hormonal and vitamin D levels looked at. Remember, it's hard, but keep the activity level up, and the water. Here it is. Get your liter of water in every day. We tend not to do that during the winter months as much. Water improves brain concentration, improves blood pressure, improves concentration. Keep the water up. Keep the movement up through the winter. Oh, I know it's hard. It's hard for me, and there is a part of me that I can't wait to get motivated. I got to put it in action, and then I feel better, and the motivation comes later. But these are just a few of the things. I want to say that there's times that seasonal affective disorder and depression and or anxiety gets so severe that we tend to turn to alcohol or drugs or misuse of prescription drugs. And what you're going to find with that is it's going to create more anxiety and more depression. So be aware of that. And there's times where we need help. We need an intervention, and be willing to really look at this and dive a little deeper into seasonal affective disorder, depression patterns in our life, and anxiety patterns, so that we can come up with more permanent, sustainable solutions. So a few thoughts there today. There is possibility, there is hope. We can change the seasonal affective disorder. Literally, I've seen so many, instead of dreading the winter months, they're actually looking forward to doing some winter activities. There is hope.